Okay, sorry about that. We will begin the January 15th, 2026 Williamson County Board of Education work session. Good to see everyone. Before we start, I'm going to refer you to this piece of paper that Lydia left in front of all of our seats that has some important reminders. Probably most important of which is that the statement of disclosure interest that each of us has to complete with the Tennessee Ethics Commission is due by January 31st. So please remind yourselves to complete that. And then there's some other important dates, district events, and training that you can read for yourselves. So just be mindful of those. All right, we will move, we'll start with the consent agenda. Are there any items that anyone wishes to discuss specifically on the consent agenda? Okay, hearing none, then we're going to vote Tuesday night to approve all of those items on consent. And just do note that there are two board policies on second reading that are in the consent agenda. Okay, we'll move to the superintendent's report. Mr. Golden.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, board members. You all see on our agenda those three items that I have in the superintendent's report. I will say, based on the voting items, I suspect that's going to consume the bulk of our meeting time. But I did have a couple of questions related to two other items I'm going to treat as a preface to those three presentations. We're actually going to have Dr. Qualls speak on the Innovation Center, and then we will give you some more information that we've been giving you over these last few monthly meetings related to the textbook adoption process and our screen time committee update. But for the preface items, one is relatively short, and then one has the potential to be a little bit longer. Number one, I've been asked about flu season, and if I'm not mistaken, a district or two is actually closed for the flu. So to give you all an idea, in case you get questions related to it, we look at our attendance. Of course, our nurses are involved, but we look at our attendance, and if any one particular school drops below 90% or so, we start asking questions about why and how, and have some conversations if needed. I will tell you that this week, our student attendance has been 96% and above. So we have not felt it at the student attendance level. I think the lowest attendance we had was in the high 92s, and then up into 99% from school to school. So just in case that question comes up, I thought there was some value in you hearing that. Second, I was asked to give you all an update on the board vote from November related to our cell phone policy and what we've done in preparing for that work that was included in the language for the board policy for this coming school year. Just as a reminder, you all voted not to have any changes to this year's board policy, but next year's board policy substantively for student use is essentially the same as this current year, but we made a commitment to do some study on securing cell phones. So what we've been working on is setting a schedule for us to do some experiments. And I'm going to give you a little bit of detail of that. Number one, we've looked to a number of our high schools to run a study on comparing the Faraday pouches to other methodologies that we've been using over time, including backpacks, including the shoe racks that some of our teachers have had. Et cetera. So here's the detail of what we're shooting for. We're planning on doing a pilot/experiment for a quarter that starts at the second half of this quarter and ends at the halfway point of the fourth quarter. In other words, a quarter's length of time that covers the last half of this quarter, first half of the fourth quarter, and this is what we're going to basically do. At Independence High School, we plan on doing a 50-50 experiment where half of our students have those Faraday packs and the other half of the students are limited and restricted to keeping their cell phones exclusively in their backpack. In other words, the experiment we're going to run is none of our teachers at Independence High School are going to have the shoe racks. I'll have them in one setting or the other. Independence High School has somewhere around 2,600 or so students, so it's that 50-50 split. So our control group is going to be the backpacks, our experimental group is going to be the Faraday packs. And we will gather quantitative and qualitative data related to that. The quantitative will be referrals, discipline referrals, comparing those. And I know Dr. Patton at Independence has already told her students that they're going to be participating in that experiment. I think they're excited about it in participating in that. So we'll go through that process. The qualitative data that we're going to be working on, and we're still working on creating this, is questionnaires for our students and our teachers related to issues like, what's been your experience with this? Have you been less tempted to look if it's a Faraday pack? Has it been a difference? We also intend to ask teachers questions related to classroom management. Have they seen a difference in those two items? On top of that, because we know that many of our teachers have, at least at the high school level, have done those shoe racks, we are adding some experimental settings at some of our other high schools where we will be comparing backpacks to those shoe racks and tracking that same data in those same contexts. I know we had some debate back and forth about, do we conduct an experiment at the middle school level? And we kind of went back and forth over that. What we have heard, generally speaking, from anecdotal information, of course, you all know that we have the same exact expectations for all our middle schools, but we've heard some, stories about, I've heard a story about a child who didn't, who maybe it wasn't enforced as much at a particular middle school versus otherwise. And what we've talked about is, number one, we believe that the data that we gather at the high school level is going to inform what will be an appropriate intervention at the middle school level. Second, Dr. Webb and her team have talked about reinforcing at the middle school level consistency among everyone in referrals, and to make sure that during this semester that there's consistency in application of that. That's a thumbnail. Dr. Webb, if you would, can you speak to that, fill in some gaps I might have had with that, and if you would speak to the middle school especially, because I know that was a key question that we've debated.
Thank you, Mr. Golden. That was a great summary. We are working to finalize in the next week and a half the qualitative aspects as well as our data collection method for the quantitative pieces. What we want to make sure that we are collecting is not only the infractions that make their way to the office, such as like second offense in a classroom, but any time that a student gets correction for having their phone or touching their phone or having it out in the hallway or in the classroom, ensuring that we're capturing all of that data. So we will make sure that not only at Independence, but also at the other high schools that are participating in the other methods that Mr. Golden mentioned, that we're collecting that same specific data. Additionally, even though we are going to continue our emphasis at the middle school level of consistent implementation, we're also going to ask 2 middle schools to participate with us in doing the same exact method of collecting data that we're doing at our pilot high schools. So as an example, all of our middle schools, as you know from our policy, that the cell phones for middle school students are away and their backpacks or lockers, oftentimes both in their backpack and their locker. So we want to collect the same quantitative and qualitative aspects of the study that we're doing at the high school with those middle schools. So as an example, maybe as a classroom teacher, I correct a student who somehow has a second device or is in their hallway, as an example, during class change, and I see them pass by and maybe they're trying to sneak their phone, that we're collecting all of that data in the same exact method as we are during the high school pilot, so we can kind of see it all side by side. So we're putting the final touches on all those pieces and working collaboratively with our school leaders on putting that together, and we look forward to bringing you the results of that later on in the fourth quarter.
Certainly open any questions you all may have about that process. All right, thank you for that. Thank you, Dr. Webb. Dr. Allen, I know that Dr. Qualls, I see him. Dr. Qualls is here. And we felt like it was an appropriate time to share some more detail about the exciting news related to the opening of our Innovation Center. Dr. Qualls, I may steal a bit of your thunder. You all have gotten used to the phrase Entrepreneurship and Innovation Center, our EIC. I'm going to use a marketing term. We are rebranding. We are going to have an Entrepreneurship Center and an Innovation Center on our Innovation Campus. And Dr. Qualls is going to share some detail with you, with his team. Chris Schneider is also standing. She is actually our director of our Innovation Center. She is going to be running all of those college and career technical programs that are getting off the ground here at our Innovation Center. I'm going to give you 2 reasons why this is timely. Number one, and most important, this is the time where students are signing up for classes for next year. Ms. Schneider and Dr. Qualls are going through school by school at the high schools and even at the middle schools, recruiting students for those programs. They've got some detail about some exciting information related to some of those programs. And historically, college and career technical programs succeed in part, and maybe in large part, based on the force of personality of the teacher. In maintaining that. The interest of the students is maintained. I think we're off to a great start related to that. You'll see some hints of that. The second big reason is the Innovation Center building. The structure itself is finished. They're going through punch list right now. We haven't gotten the furnishings for it yet, but the construction schedule that the team put forth was ahead of schedule. And I will tell you, where is Eric here? Eric, I want to thank you specifically for driving that home. Any of you who've been involved in construction know that things get finished ahead of schedule because somebody is pushing it, and it takes that. So, Eric, thank you for your work in leading that. Dr. Qualls, if I'm not mistaken, you will schedule some tours of the facility if folks ask.
That is correct.
I think the hard hat time, the window is closed.
Over.
Don't have to wear a hard hat, which is extra good for me because I can't fit through the doors with a hard hat on. With that, I will turn it over to Dr. Qualls to share with you where we are.
Thank you, Mr. Golden. Thank you, Board. I am super excited to be here, but let me start with this. I've been explicitly instructed by some folks over on that area over there that I've got 15 minutes. So, Lydia, I'm going to watch you, and you're going to wave your hand at 10 minutes. Okay? All right. We got a lot of information. I'm going to throw a lot of things at you. I want to kind of walk down the timeline of how we got to this point, and build upon the success of the foundation of CTE that Dr. Oyer and Dr. Allen had already put in place in that blueprint of innovation with our current EIC. That we are going to move, like Mr. Golden said, to the campus model. As you know, our current entrepreneurship center is down here in the annex, located at the end of Franklin High School, and obviously our new location of our Innovation Center. I want to talk real quick about the Entrepreneurship Center and where it started and where we are now. It started with 72 kids in year 1. We are now in year 8. We have a triple-digit wait list to get in, and we're max capacity of 280 students. We are the back-to-back national reigning champions in the pitch contest. The EIC currently is a national brand that when we walk in, everybody knows exactly who we are. I've lost count on how many groups have come in across the country. There are 500-plus locations with entrepreneurship centers in the 9-12 realm that try to compete for this money. We're back-to-back, and we're hoping that we're going to be back-to-back-to-back at the end of this year. So we're super excited about that.
I want to interrupt with just one little bit. We have had
That doesn't count, Lydia.
we have had many colleges and universities come to figure out what we're doing at the EIC.
He is correct on that. 2 SEC schools, as a matter of fact, Ole Miss and UT, have spent multiple days with us, and on the way out the door, they looked at me and they said, "We can't touch what you're doing." And that's kind of a litmus test for us about where we're floating. We have over 150 mentors that make that place very magical. We have our unbelievable partnership with Williamson Inc. and Matt Largent and his team at the chamber, and it's really remarkable what happened. So then we started thinking, what's next? But he mentioned the teachers. And our facilitators at the ESC are unbelievable. They're so flexible. But Paula Chilton and her team, if you've never met Paula, I cannot encourage you enough to go meet Paula. And I wouldn't be standing here right now without my team. And I don't want to go overshadow anything before I get to my team. Chris Schneider, who's now going to run the Innovation Center, has been with me on the hip on this for the last 5 years. This project has lasted us 5 years, and lots of caffeine and lots of sleepless nights of where do we go from the Entrepreneurship Center to 2.0 utilizing the Innovative School Models Grant. Chris Cooper is now with us on our team by way of Cheatham County. He was the CTE director over there, and he is supporting all of our 140 teachers across the 10 high schools in our 34 programs of study. And all our other staff. Sean Carter will be working with Chris, and he is the career coach. He is helping these kids get the right schedules and get into these programs that is not exactly easy, and it's a jigsaw puzzle. So how did we get here? The ISM grant. We happen to be sitting in the right place at the right time is what this is. This was a one-time shot by Governor Lee that allocated $500 million for the state of Tennessee, specific for career and technical education. And the recipe was the $1 million per high school and $500,000 per middle school. So once they were explaining this, I was sitting beside Chris in the meeting, and I heard two words. You can pull the money if you're a multi-school district, and you can build. And I just looked at her and I said, we're fixing to build. But then they followed it up with, you can only build with 10% of the overall allocation. So I was thinking, man, you can't do much for that amount of money. So we started thinking and kind of mulling it over and coming up with a plan. And then we reached out to our TDO folks and got the commissioners on line and said, hey, I want to give me 10 minutes. I just want to kind of throw something at you. And by the time we finished, they had given us the approval to say 100% of that allocation could go to bricks and mortar building. So we were very appreciative of them to be able to do that. Matter of fact, it pretty much changed the game. They opened it up for the other systems to do as such. There have been a couple that have come on late that have used a high portion, but I think we were the first and the only at 100% allocated towards building a new building. And we thought that if we went and spent it elsewhere on equipment and on technology, that, as you all know, that has shelf life. So what was the best way we could use this money, be good stewards of this money, and after we're all in this room are gone and retired and done, that this money's still being used in that building. So reimagining time, space, learning, and partners were the kind of the criteria that you had to do to get the money. So I'm going to explain that very briefly of how we're going to do that, or actually Chris will do that in a minute. I wanted you to look at some trends that are happening around the world today, specifically nationally, about some things that are shifting. 30 years ago when I was in high school, you had a choice. You're either going to work or you're going to college. We didn't try to blend the two, right? That was one thing that we discussed, that every single program that we were going to build in this building had every single exit ramp known to man. So in other words, a kid could go to work, a kid could get a technical certificate, a kid could go to 2-year college and get an associate's degree, or a 4-year. It's not our job to pick the exit ramps, it's our job to build them. So that's what we built into each of those. But you can see the pendulum has shifted from one end to the other now. For every 5 skilled trade worker walking out of the profession and retiring, only 1 is entering. So we thought, okay, we have to have a skilled trade piece, right? Then we started looking at our local government and local chamber and local needs of workforce development. Where are all the shortages? Who are the partners we can approach and say, hey, we want you a part of this. If you need entry-level employees, tell us what that looks like and how can we build a program. We got told no quite a bit because we were coming off the tails of COVID, and there was a lot of uncertainty at that time about employee and whether they're even going to be in the office most of the time or what things were going to happen. And we started looking at TSBA data and said, all right, let's make a list. And then we sent that list out to our rising 7th through 11th graders at the time, And we outlined about 10 to 15 different ones that we thought we could pull off regionally and locally. We got an unbelievable amount of survey information back from parents. Matter of fact, it was in the 7,000 range. And we started ranking those programs accordingly, right? Okay, this is a good one. This is a regional need. This is a local need. Now let's go find those partners. So that was kind of the criteria and the methodology of how we selected our programs. And without further ado, I'm going to let Ms. Schneider discuss these programs with you that's going to be offered in the building.
So of the 5 programs, we're going to start next year, and we will start offering advanced power and machinery, and we go into it a little bit in the next slide, but advanced power and machinery, aviation, cybersecurity and artificial intelligence, hospitality, tourism and culinary, and fire management. And all of these are offered with, like Dr. Quall said, different exit ramps. So in our aviation pathway, for a senior who comes to us and they are like, hey, I've already done some flight school, I've already got my private pilot's license, what can I do? We've talked with MTSU about dual enrolling them. So the students will be in our building, dual enrolled through MTSU's aviation program. We also will get to where we'll offer the private pilot's license. Parents will have to do an outside agreement with a flight school to actually get that done, because I can only do so much on the flight simulators. We can't do actual flying unless you're okay with it. But the cool part is all of our flight simulators that we are working on purchasing are FAA approved for loggable flight hours. So if our teacher has a CFI, which is a certified flight instructor, they're able to give the kids the loggable hours. So now instead of the students going off to a flight school and paying $170 or $150 an hour, they're going to do it in class with our teacher who's hopefully a CFI, and then they can log the hours. You skipped one of them, sorry. Our cybersecurity and AI program, this was built 100% with dual enrollment through Columbia State. The students come to us as juniors and seniors. They can walk out with a cybersecurity certificate. So with that cybersecurity certificate, they could go straight to work. They could go to Columbia State to finish their associates, or they could go off to a 4-year and work more in that field. We don't know what cybersecurity is going to look like in 6 months. So working with the colleges is a huge benefit for us. Advanced power and machinery. This will be the very first TCAT location in Williamson County. TCAT Dixon is where we have been sending our kids. That's a drive if you're from Nolensville, if you're from anywhere. That's a drive to go and commit. This program, they actually rewrote the curriculum for 2 different programs, the electrical power assistant and then the off-road diesel assistant. So both of those will be offered next year for really for freshmen through seniors as it fits in their schedule. Hospitality, tourism, and culinary. We're adding the and culinary because only 3 of our high schools have culinary, and that is a need. Hospitality and tourism is huge in Franklin. This is also a technical certificate through Columbia State Community College. The goal is to get internships that are local, and then if they decide to go off to school, they can go to MTSU and work in a hotel. The building is unique that we have a mock hotel room and a mock hotel lobby to where kids can be our ambassadors of the Innovation Center. And then finally, our fire management program. This was built with the City of Franklin. We're actually piloting it this year. The goal is that the students walk out with Firefighter 1, basic EMT, CPR, and possibly EMT if they dual enroll through Columbia State. So if you don't know, to get Firefighter 1, you have to complete a live burn. So the City of Franklin, the legal teams, all the legal teams love me. We've gotten it all approved, and hopefully we'll have our first cohort of 12 seniors that will be eligible to roll into the City of Franklin's intern program. I know what you're going to say. Go ahead.
No, finish.
And earlier this week, we talked with the Department of Labor about setting up an apprenticeship program so that the apprenticeship program is at the City of Franklin Fire Department. Our students would become pre-apprenticed, which is pretty cool.
Which will be our first time for that. But I do want to look at the advanced power. Caterpillar is our first partner on this project. It was the first yes that we got, and you asked the question why. Think about local workforce. If you've been past south of 840 past Independence, Caterpillar's building their brand new center down there. It's the largest tech center that they've built yet. Our kids will be able to, hopefully, we'll kick them out of the nest and go directly to work for Caterpillar south of Independence down there. So that's just one example of how locally this will impact our workforce.
If you look at our enrollment data, we do have a max capacity at the Innovation Center of 525 based on the current schedule we have. If you look on the left, these are our high schools, and I would like to point out that we have not visited Page High School or Vanguard yet. Page High School was supposed to be December 5th. They were at the state tournament, and they said there's not going to be a ton of kids. We're going there tomorrow, actually. Every time that we go to a school, the next night the numbers go up. So that will happen. Advanced Power Machinery, as you can see, we have 71 applicants for 40 spots. TCAT sets that number as 20 per program. Aviation, we have a max capacity of 225 because FSD has actually been offering aviation for the last 2 years. So we will have students who are rising sophomores ready to roll into level 3 aviation.
Franklin Special used their Innovative Schools Models grant to get that program started, knowing that we were going to be setting up a program to allow them to matriculate up to us.
So
Yes.
we set a goal in the first year too to have that 50% potential capacity. We've already gone past that with, I would say by close of business tomorrow, we'll be over 300 applications.
Yeah, so if you look at all of the programs, they are growing. I think after tomorrow, after Page, we'll have, yeah, like you said, we'll be over 300.
With a max capacity of 525, plus the Entrepreneurship Center at 280, we're looking at potential enrollment of 805 on that campus, which is large. And we're super excited about that. Like I told you earlier, the Entrepreneurship Center already has a pretty lengthy wait list to even get in. And we're super excited. We think that this is going to reach its potential 100% capacity by the third year, if not before. And I'm not sure we need it in year one because there are going to be a lot of kinks to work out. But we're super excited about the opportunities that we're going to provide for the kids. Here are some renderings of what the inside looks like. I do want to say, Mr. Golden mentioned it, Bell and Associates got the contract and been unbelievable partners on this process. Klein Sweeney also captured the thought process, and with Eric and oversight, this has been a great project. I don't know that I've been a great client for them, and they probably have some gray hairs because of me, and I warned them on the front that I was going to be not a good client, but they've been so good to work with. And you have to remember, we broke ground on December 4th. The building had not even been knocked down, the old animal control building on December 4th. 13 months later, this thing is all but completely finished. So they have done a great job.
By the way, county government was good to us. They gave us that space so that we could actually build. Because this particular piece of land was actually officially county government property.
Yes.
So this is looking from the very top into the grab-and-go area. This part's important because the one thing that we feel like we're missing in some of these is transition students. Our goal is to have the transition students come and help create the menus and run through and build our innovation grab-and-go area.
As part of our CTE strategic plan, there was a portion of helping that particular population that I felt like as a team, we talked about it. We really want to ramp that up, and we've already started the Innovation Cafe at the EIC. It's super successful right now, and now we're just going to expand that even further for those students and work-based learning students as a whole.
In nutshell, just as a reminder, transition students are students with disabilities who are on a special education diploma track.
This is looking into the Thompson Caterpillar TCAT space, if you will, where we're going to do advanced power machinery and electrical power generation. And this was the original, but it's not the original, and this is about number 5 revision. We kind of talked to them about what the interior of the Entrepreneurship Center looks like, the collaboration, the openness, the feeling of innovation in that. How do we capture that vision and make it an external facade? And I think they captured it pretty well. So there's the final product. We do have on the left-hand side, since this picture was taken, it actually has the name of the building in that wood area that makes it look even better. But we are, like Mr. Golden said, we are setting dates for you guys to come through and tour it. And we can't wait to get those dates done. We were going to wait mid-February, Eric, is that right, when we're looking at furniture package being delivered? So we kind of want to have it staged for you to show you what it really looks like. And we can't wait for that. Lydia, did we come in under 10 minutes? You fell asleep on me. Okay.
And I want to mention a couple other little pieces related to that. We will be scheduling a ribbon cutting probably in the very, very early fall, in the heat of the summer probably. for the ribbon cutting once our students have committed. Second, Mr. Brown, you and I have had these discussions over the years in this context. You've often asked, when you have a grant, are we committing to funds long-term with a grant? We made sure with this facility, now I will tell you, the intent of the state was, yes, they're trying to prime the pump so that school districts will commit additional funding to career tech. This was 100% built with that grant money, but we will be including teachers in our budget.
Last thing I want to tell you, that Chris and I have been all over the country looking at innovation centers, CTE centers, if you will. The most impressive one, Mr. Gold and I actually got to see, was in Arizona at East Valley Institute of Technology. And it's not uncommon to see CTE centers across the country. It's not uncommon to see entrepreneurship centers. Here's what I think is going to be the magic sauce for WCS that sets us apart from everybody. Everywhere we went, it was an either or. Ours are going to work together. We're going to teach kids how to do a skill trade, if you will, on their passions, and then we're going to teach them how to open their own business and business plans. That, to me, is we've yet to find it. And I think that we are breaking the mold when it comes to that on innovation here in Williamson County, not just statewide, but nationally. And we have made a lot of trips to see a lot of places. So we're super excited about that.
I also want to specifically thank Drs. Allen and Webb. They have put in countless hours and thought in helping us get these programs off the ground. So thank you both for your additional work on this.
Eric, you have a question?
Yeah, thank you. So go back to the sessions that we offer, that slide. I'm gonna.
The programming?
Yeah.
Yes,
No, forward one or two more. There we go. That's fine, either one. One more. So I'm gonna ask a question I already know the answer to here. So Jeremy gave me a pre-tour of the thing. I twisted his arm a bit. It wasn't that hard to get him to show off his baby. If you haven't seen the EIC, let me start off with this. And when I say EIC, I mean the legacy version of it, the Entrepreneurship Innovation Center. You should get over there. It's just one of the crown jewels of Williamson County schools. I think there's an argument to be made that it's the best thing that we do. You can make that argument even. Back-to-back national champs. Just to be able to have one is incredible. To say, here's a program that we had where the Student Entrepreneur of the Year came out of our program, and we had it back-to-back. It's amazing stuff. And now, we're splitting them up, turning it into the campus. You've got the entrepreneurship side, you've got the innovation side. It's not even a doubling of it. It's more. It's going to more than double it because you're going to have the synergies of the two. So when it does open up the ribbon cutting, I just really encourage everyone to go see it. I was on the initial startup board for it. My wife's a mentor on it. I've been involved, and so yeah, this is good. It's the next add-on, and I went over to see it. And I just, even with all of that and the great expectations and everything else, I was blown away by it. So I can't speak highly enough of it enough, and I just want to do that because Jeremy's such a low-energy guy. Chris has always got to push him out there to talk to people that someone had to hype it up, But so the firefighter program, we're going to come right out, and they're going to have jobs right out of that. What are those jobs going to pay?
So the starting salary for a student who comes out with firefighter 1 EMT at the city of Franklin is $71,500 a year.
With a college reimbursement program in tow if they choose to go to college.
So over $71,000 a year at 18 years of age,
Correct.
no college debt.
Correct. And hopefully they've done EMT and firefighter 1 using the dual enrollment grant, so they've had no cost to them just yet.
And they can get the college
Paid for at day one, yes.
Okay. I had 4 years of college, and I wasn't making that much money, and I did that when I came out with my first job, significantly. The advanced power machinery, how many technical hours are they going to come out with?
They will come out with, each certification is 528 technical hours. So as a junior, you could take electrical power assistant, and that's 528 loggable hours as a certificate, and then off-road diesel is also 500. And 528. And when I mentioned that TCAT rewrote that, the dual enrollment grant covers 1,296 hours of instruction for students. So that was why they rewrote it, to give our kids the opportunity to do both certificates.
And the impactful thing about that is, on that trend data slide that I showed you, most of these companies, like Caterpillar as an example,
Yeah.
are kind of cutting the legs out from under some of these technical colleges, because what they're finding out is they're having to reskill and retool once they get on their boots on the ground. So he's like, hey, let's take the bull by the horns. Let's get with TCAT. Let's get on the front end of this, and let's develop it like we do internally. And I love it that TCAT and Caterpillar both came to the table and was like, hey, let's do this. Let's make this happen. So it's really so efficient, so fast, so lean that they get in those jobs, get a truck, and those jobs pay between $70,000 and $100,000.
$70,000 to $100,000.
That's correct.
18 years old.
As an 18 years old.
No
Yeah.
debt.
Now, obviously, there's steps, but
Sure.
they could get to the 100,000 pretty quick.
And so 1,300 hours certification, 700,000 of it.
Now, that's a little strategic, and we didn't have enough time because Lydia
Up
cut
to.
us off. But I'm going to say this. There's 3-hour blocks. So some of this programming is not for a traditional student that has an hour block to be able to go burn. Like for this program, you have to strategically front load your schedule, right? And then senior year, senior year, we're looking at 3-hour chunks of time that they're sitting in there getting that certification hours in the facility.
And if I don't want to go, if I do want to go to college, you know, if I want to be a civil engineer or something like that, how does this benefit?
This is stackable. That's the beautiful thing about it. If I want to be an electrical engineer or a mechanical engineer, I cannot tell the kids enough to go take this program to see if this is really what you want to do. And if you do want to do it, it even adds more value to resume and applications. A lot of these programs were built off conversations with post-secondaries. I can remember when we were building out the cybersecurity and AI program, talking to the provost at Belmont. And they get roughly 25,000 applications a year. And every one of the applications look like kids from Williamson County all across the country. So I said, what is different? How do you get in? And they said, well, once you get past the threshold of whatever our minimal ACT score is and all the things that we have, once you get past that, we start looking at portfolios. I said, beautiful. What does that include? And they was talking about how many CTE classes they do. What have they done? Have they built a business? Basically talking about what we were building. And I was like, this is proof right here. So if a kid wants to go further, they're building an unbelievable resume where they can go in and say, hey, I got a technical certificate in high school in mechanical diesel engines, and I want to become a mechanical engineer, and it's going to be they're just building unbelievable resumes to get in.
So Lydia told me to keep it short too, but I told her I'm not going to, and I don't care. So tell the story about the young lady who wanted to major in entrepreneurship and was going to go to Loyola.
Yes, Ray Whitlock.
The short version.
Good luck. Yep, see, they turned you on.
I know.
There's no such thing as a short version, but I'll give my best.
All right.
We'll get out of here. One of our all-stars, Patrick Whitlock's daughter, Rhea Whitlock, was one of our entrepreneurial students, and she's just remarkable. She goes to Loyola, Chicago to be on a dance scholarship and to be an entrepreneur. She gets into the entrepreneurship center and has her entrance interview with the director. She sits down and she unrolls her resume, which includes OTL. If you don't want OTL, that's a whole nother story. The EIC and everything that she has done up and to date. And the guy looked at her when she finished. He goes, you need to go change majors. There's nothing here that I can offer you. But I do want you to be a mentor. She's the first 18-year-old mentor, I think, in the history of Loyola Chicago Entrepreneurial Center. So that is also proof in the pudding. And the amount of scholarships that those kids are getting and the dream schools are getting into, our reigning national champion has won $76,000 to date in pitch contest. She got into South by Southwest, which is no easy feat.
Yeah.
And she's still a senior in high school, by the way. She's selling anywhere between $500 and $1,500 a week in product. And she got into the Wharton Business School at Penn. And she will tell you, if she was standing here right now without the EIC, she would not be in that. And she's also having a meeting in 2 weeks for potential somebody buying her company. And she's not even 18 yet. So I gave an extra story in there, Eric. I'm out. I'm done. I'm cutting it off.
One quick question.
Oh, no.
Okay, I think from info.
Well, here, let me wrap up with this, and I'll
Okay.
turn it over to you with this one. So it's just to say, again, go see it, because the renderings are cool, but you go into the building, you smell the fresh paint, you see everything. It's just a cool facility to be around. It's got an energy vibe to it, where you just walk into some of those things. Like when you walk into a cool restaurant, you go, oh, yeah, I like it here. That's what the building is like. And, you know, everyone here, I think, has a chance to be associated with, and I say associated with because, you know, we just need to just get the hell out of their way, let them run. They got great people. Sean Carter, what an amazing hire over there as well. But, you know, we all got the chance to really be associated with something nationally recognized here. And I imagine at some point you're going to come and you're going to ask you for a few things, and whatever you need, I'm already on board. So that's all I want to say.
Thank you.
Okay. In the spirit of that, y'all have an open house later this month, right?
The open house is for the Entrepreneurship Center.
Right.
We're not taking people over to the Innovation Center
Okay.
just yet. We're going to wait until we get furniture and it's set up.
Okay, and then for families that are interested, tell me the timeline again, just for the open house and applications for those, for the Entrepreneurship Center.
Okay, so Entrepreneurship Center and Innovation Center applications have the same timeline.
Okay.
Applications opened December 3rd. They will close February 13th. By spring break is our internal goal to let all of the students know if they made it into the program, so that from spring break through summer, we can work on scheduling and transportation and all of that. So spring break is the goal.
So if parents are interested, after their students have heard your presentation, they can come to the open house later this month for the Entrepreneurship.
For the Entrepreneurship Center.
Okay.
We will be putting out another date for a nighttime Zoom for parents, because we did 3 parent meetings in December for the Innovation Center.
Okay.
And we have gotten a lot of requests recently about just getting more information.
Everybody take your phones out.
Oh, there you
This
go.
is the best way to do it. You can
Okay.
keep an update going.
Okay,
I
thank you.
forgot I even put that in.
That's why I asked you if that was the last slide.
Yeah, help spread the word. Tell them about the pens.
So the pens on your desk that are the red Innovation Center pens, if your phone is unlocked and you hold it up, it's got an NFC chip in it that will take you directly to the WCS website and the Innovation Center information. So we're working on keeping that updated and full of information.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I do have a question on go back to the slide, if you don't mind, where it lists the 5 programs and the slots for the applications.
Right
That
here?
one- That one.
Yep.
What's the cap on, you said advanced power and machinery and aviation, but what are the other 3 capacities?
Cybersecurity and AI right now, it would cap at 100. Hospitality, tourism, and culinary would cap at 100. Fire management, as of right now, caps at 12. That is only one cohort of students, because the city of Franklin has a team of firefighters that come in and teach that one time a day. So Chief has asked if there was a need for another group, and I think with 18, we could say yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
I wanted to thank you guys. This is amazing. I'm so excited about this. I love everything about it. I love how you guys focused on building the building and then relying on the partnerships to step in. So just for a little, I'm curious, just as a former teacher, how does the scheduling work? Do kids come 5 days a week, or
Every
do you?
day.
Every day?
I'll let her, go ahead. You got the microphone. Go ahead. No, go.
It is built into their daily schedule. So think of it as travel time is like built into their study hall. So the students do have to give up part of their study hall, or it's during lunch periods.
So you kind of frame it towards the end of the day or lunch periods?
Or the beginning of the day, to where we're going to start about
Gotcha.
20 minutes earlier to get around some of the Franklin High traffic. We can start 20 minutes earlier. They can have study hall as their first period and show up about 15 minutes late after class.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
EIC for buses.
Oh, yes. So that was part of being on the same campus, is that we already have bus transportation from every high school for the Entrepreneurship Center.
Got it.
So we'll double it for the Innovation Center. So it won't add buses, and hopefully not a headache, but we're trying.
But you allow kids who are drivers to drive?
Yes.
Yes. So
We do.
I'm so excited about this.
Statistically speaking, how many students are driving themselves versus buses?
Currently at the EC?
Yeah.
It's probably about 50-50,
That's what I
depending
thought.
on the time. Because the very early morning, obviously, we don't have buses, and the very afternoon, we don't have buses.
Yeah.
The middle of the day, we have 4 cohorts that we provide transportation from every school.
So our bus drivers who drive for the Entrepreneurship Center will run a regular route, and then they might finish up at Mill Creek, and then they'll head over
Got
to
it.
head over to Nolensville High School and pick up a route and take them.
Well, I can't thank you enough for jumping on this, and you did, bravo.
Well,
So,
it's a team effort.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and everybody, yeah.
And a
Getting
lot
this
of
done,
coffee.
built so
Lots of
fast.
coffee.
Yeah,
It's phenomenal. I'm so excited.
thank you.
Mr. Golden, can I add something to that?
Sure.
Another key collaboration for CTE has been with Vanguard High School. I don't know that if you guys know this or not, but in that same annex adjoining the EIC, there's a classroom with an outside entrance that is kind of like the hub for Vanguard, our online school. And so one of the key collaborations with them for this project with the Entrepreneurship Center and the Innovation Hub is that occasionally there will be a student who wants to take multiple classes at one of these two locations, but it's hard for them to get from Independence High School or Nolensville High School and be there for an extended amount of time, or travel becomes an issue. So what Vanguard has done is that they're saving seats in their classes that are not filled by Vanguard students. They're holding those spots for the students who wish to attend the EIC or the Innovation Center or the Entrepreneurship Center, so that they may take an asynchronous class or two to give themselves a little bit more breathing room in their schedule. So maybe they want to spend a little extra time after their class ends at one of these two locations, and they want to meet with mentors after class or have some more lab time in that building. Having that partnership with Vanguard and it being right there on that same hub allows them the opportunity to do that, have flexibility in their schedule, spend a little bit extra time. And I don't know if you know this or not, but we also, even though it's an online school, there are a lot of students who come in face-to-face. They just, from Vanguard, they need some face-to-face tutoring or just some direct instruction in person from time to time. And so we do have teachers that do spend a lot of time in Vanguard. So those students who are taking an online class, maybe they're struggling a little bit. In that online class, they can just walk right over from one of these two locations and see a teacher and schedule a meeting with them face to face. So I can't say enough about all of our leaders in Williamson County and how they collaborate together. And when there's a project that's taken place, we really try to ensure there's no stone unturned, and we're strategic about the partnership and relationships within all of our programming.
Thank you, Dr. Webb. And I think that adds the versatility of the campus and the uniqueness of what we're being able to offer, that we can get any kid in there. Any further questions?
I just have to make a statement to pile on to the accolades. In my day job, we talk a lot about workforce development across Tennessee, and this is exactly the kind of thing that everybody's talking about that's starting to happen, is that the customization of programming to meet the needs of employers. It's not the cookie cutter thing that used to be where this was the curriculum and you just took it or left it. This is, companies are saying, I need this type of worker, and then local education systems, whether it be K-12 or TCATs or community colleges, are adapting to that and saying, we're going to create programming and curriculum and certifications to meet those needs specifically. And this is exactly, I'm going to go tell this story in my day job proudly, but this is exactly it. I was at a company in Clarksville. They're going to hire 400 people. They're building a facility right now. They're going to hire 400 people, advanced manufacturing jobs. And they're going to hire 350 of them by going down to the TCAT 2 miles down the street, supplying the instructors who are employees of the company. They're going to supply the instructors, and they're going to get space on the TCAT's class schedule. And then they're going to supply the students. People are going to enroll in the classes. They get the certification. They drive 2 miles down the street, and they have a job paying $75 grand working in that factory. This is exactly what we need.
When we first started talking to companies, we kind of fell into that trap. I fell in that trap. And we didn't quite discover the ROI yet. And that's the ROI, is how do we tailor-made these programs towards workforce development for these companies to have skin in the game and say, yes, we will back you if we can get X amount of employees. So that's the return on investment.
Thank you guys so much.
I want to toot Dr. Qualls' horn in just one other context.
You're never going to ask us.
And I may be overstating this or maybe understating this. TDOE still needs to catch up to some of those certifications.
100%.
And Dr. Qualls has been making that argument to them. They talk about EPSOs, early post-secondary opportunities, and then some of the certifications they have at the state level. And it takes quick motion and change because technology changes so quickly in manufacturing. And so thank you for having those conversations with him as well.
All right, well done, guys. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We're gonna take a shift, maybe a 90-degree turn on our next one. You all know that we've been having regular conversations about our textbook adoption process. Ironically, much of the adoption this year are career and technical education programs, including some manufacturing. Jen Sauer is going to present our next iteration, our next month's report on where we are with our textbook adoption process, and this is the month where the proverbial rubber is hitting the road. So, Jen, if you would.
All right. I want to kind of take you back to the last time we were together. So if you remember, the last time I was here speaking to you guys was at our November work session, and we were hours away from our prediction that the state was going to pass the list of materials that have passed state vetting for this year. So I did wanted to update you that that list did pass as we expected back at the November meeting. So the list that we looked at then is the list that did actually pass state vetting. The link is there to get to it if you would like to go and review that again. I also wanted to let you know that since then, the state has also released the summary of reviewer comments. So every year, the state kind of compiles after their state vetting process what was the feedback that they got from their reviewer committees, and then that is linked there on that state website as well. So I wanted to make sure you had both of those things available. It's just kind of catch up on what's happened since the last time we were together at that state level. I also wanted to remind you that we had some courses that no materials passed for state vetting. Our mechatronics course of studies, which is that course that we offer out at Fairview High School that fits in that advanced manufacturing. There were no materials that passed state vetting for any of those courses. So our CTE people, Chris Cooper, has been in close contact with publishers, with the teachers, to pull some materials that we think could potentially fit those courses. So I just wanted to let you know that we do have some materials that we're going to be reviewing. I'll remind you, just like I've been talking with the committee, they weren't materials that went through the state vetting process, so those teachers are just going to be really carefully evaluating, are these materials that really do fit the needs of the course as they go through that process. We did have a meeting in December, so we pulled our textbook committee together on December 8th. They were able to look at that list of materials that had passed state vetting. We reviewed in detail our textbook adoption process to make really sure that they were very familiar with all the things that they were going to be doing and being able to communicate that back to teachers in their building. We finalized their draft that they did at their November meeting of those criteria checklists that the teachers and the committee will use to evaluate materials as we go through our adoption process. And then every committee member swore the oath that's required by TDOE that participants have not and will not be inappropriately influenced by publishers. I did want to make sure that you had access to what did those criteria checklists look like that ended up being that final draft form that came out of the committee. So they're here on the screen. I know it's kind of small, but I'll just kind of remind you if you want to go back and reference this slide later when you have access to the presentation. So we kind of grouped it as two different because if you remember, our adoption is a little bit diverse this year. So we have health, PE, and high school lifetime wellness developed a set of criteria checklists. And then our CTE teachers worked to come up with a criteria checklist that fit the needs of their courses. You'll see that on both of them there's blank spaces because we encourage the committee and the teachers to continue conversations and consider this a living document. So as other things come up as their review process, we encourage them to kind of add that to what they're looking at when they're reviewing materials. I also wanted to let you know that I talked to the committee about these updates to Board Policy 4.401, the one about textbooks and instructional materials. Those updates were made I would not say in the middle, but once we had already started the textbook adoption process, but these two pieces of that were able to be implemented this year. So I've updated the committee on that, and I wanted to make sure that you guys knew too. So that first one, the textbook review will include whether textbooks have any data or studies showing better student outcomes with particular consideration given to any ESSA tier data. So I talked to the committee about that in December, and then I copy pasted right out of the policy, sent that to every single publisher and requested that they send us any information that they had regarding that particular part of the policy. As of now, we don't have anything from publishers that specifically speaks to that data or studies regarding student outcomes. If anything does come to light, of course, we'll make sure that the committee gets that, but so far we don't have anything from publishers. There's also the statement that says the textbook adoption committee selections will be submitted to the board for approval along with written explanations. So that's also been discussed with the committee. They've been asked to pass that on to teachers in their building. And when teachers submit that electronic form to indicate their selection, it's also going to include a section that requests for teachers to fill in that written explanation. This is a copy of that oath that is required as part of TDOE. So again, if you're interested in going back and looking at it, I wanted to make sure you had access to that in the slide. We also, tomorrow, right back here in this building at 8 o'clock in the morning, we have probably our most involved textbook committee meeting. So this is the meeting where we have the entire textbook committee here and the publishers come to meet with the committee and kind of introduce the committee to their materials. So the way the agenda works, the committee is going to hear the presentations from the publishers. They have the opportunity to take notes and ask questions. We've invited, this sounds grand, the CTE teachers of courses up for adoption, but who are not on the committee. There are 3 of them. So we invited them to come in and have the opportunity to be able to hear from the publishers as well, since that meeting is happening.
Jen, just as an aside, when social studies comes next year, that's not going to be possible.
It is not going to be an option. You are right.
'Cause we'll have a few hundred.
Correct. Actually, if you go K to 12, it's probably close to 1,000. That would be my prediction. Yeah, it's a lot. The way the schedule's written, each publisher has approximately 50 minutes, which is presentation and also any question in time with the committee. And then the committee members are going to be encouraged to bring all that information back to the teachers that they work with in their building. As far as teacher reviews, here are the things that teachers are going to be doing between January and February. So teachers have access to print materials at those site-based reviews. So those are the 5 different high schools and middle schools where materials have been sent from publishers. Those are available in January and February. Teachers also have access to digital access that was provided by the publishers. And then, to Mr. Golden's point, the health, PE, and wellness teachers, there are a lot more of them than 3. So they're going to have an opportunity to meet with publishers on February 13th, which is our district-wide day. In mid-February, so February 13th, we'll open up that electronic form that teachers will submit both their recommendation and their reasoning to the textbook committee. They have almost a week to fill that out, so we keep it open the 13th through the 19th. That teacher reasoning and recommendation data is then captured. It's aggregated by school, and then the committee will meet on February 24th. They receive all of that information that comes out of their building. So teacher members receive the data that comes specific to their building. The community and parent members receive the full district data. While that's happening, we also have public reviews going on here at the PD Center. So we have 6 different dates. There are a variety of days of the week and a variety of times of day to make sure we're meeting the needs of our diverse community and their schedules that they're keeping. We also have digital samples on the website, and I'm going to put up the next slide that kind of goes into a little bit detail about that. So on our website, we've posted access to the publicly available digital access. So just so you kind of know how that process works, as part of the state process, TDOE publicly posts digital access to all of the publisher materials that are submitted to the state. That's available on the state website. We could point members of the public directly to that. I would say that it's a little bit less user-friendly because of two things. Number one, the material on the state site is grouped by publisher, not by course. So as a parent or a community member, if I'm trying to go in and review materials, I'm not going to know which courses are under which publisher. The other thing is that the state is going to include everything that was submitted. Not all of those actually pass state vetting. So that's also a little bit confusing if you go directly there. So what we do instead is we just pull those links and we organize them by course rather than by publisher, because we found that that's a little bit easier for people to navigate. So there's just a little snapshot there that you can look at. This is just one that I picked because it was close to the top. So if I'm interested in reviewing what's available for the course Principles of Engineering and Technology, I'll look down below there and I'll see that I have two different resources from two different publishers. Here's the title, and then here's the way I access it. If you, as a member of the public, choose to go to that on the website, you're also going to have access to the public comment form. So the public comment form, if you come to a physical review, we have paper copies of that available, and we also have the QR code that goes directly to the electronic form. If you go to the website links directly to that public comment form and electronic form. As we receive any public comments about the textbooks during the review process, we compile all of those. We make them available to you on the board, and we also make it available to the textbook committee. Okay, I wanted to remind you again, we're about halfway through, so tomorrow is that meeting on January 16th, and then we only have one more textbook committee meeting, so February 24th is when the committee committee members will come back together to cast that recommendation that will then go to you all. Wanted to kind of tell you about that because spring break is a little bit early this year, so that kind of throws the schedule a little bit off. So the committee is going to meet on February 24th. Their meeting is in the afternoon, so it's going to take a little bit of time. I don't really know what to tell you. It'll be a couple of days while we compile all of that information, but we're going to send out to you as soon as we have it together. Here are the results after that February 24th committee meeting, and then after spring break, our work session is on March 19th, so we'll be here to present that to you at March 19th, and then it's scheduled that you'll have your vote at that March 23rd board meeting. Okay, do you guys have questions for me?
I want to mention a couple things for you all. That meeting tomorrow, the publishers has some scheduled time, so they'll be taking turns presenting. So if you drop in, you'll just happen upon a publisher based on whatever time you show up. If I'm not mistaken, Jen, at the end of that day, your team will be spending some time talking about that day in reviewing that.
That's correct, yes. The final publisher presentation ends at 2 o'clock. The committee will be here until about 3, and that'll be their time to kind of meet in small groups, kind of debrief and discuss, come up with what notes they have, and then if they have any additional questions, what I'll do is be capturing that information and making sure that gets passed on to the publishers so that we can make sure that those questions that they have at the end of the day get captured, passed to the publisher, and then get back to the committee so that they can then pass that on to the teachers. So that final hour is kind of that work session time, if you will.
And one key value I would suggest to you all as board members in what's going on right now is to give you an idea of what's going to happen with a much more involved social studies adoption next year. So if you get a glimpse of the process, I think it's going to prepare you well for that much more involved, a lot more content that you're going to see next year.
So, I asked how we might support you. So I did have a meeting with Jake McCalman and, I forget her name, Dr. Linda do you remember? No, Dr. Cash.
Linda
who's
Cash.
part of the adoption textbook on December 9th. One of the things she shared, she's like, the timeline's kind of the timeline, but I thought it was interesting. One of the couple things she shared was that, like, the social studies standards were released, last year. So, like, they're being implemented now in her district. I don't know if that's what our district is doing. And they actually don't approve the textbook adoption till June, because they say that so they would take like this school year to start the transition to the standards. They vote on the books in June, and then they kind of slowly work in switching the teachers to the new textbooks, and they take a whole year to actually, because I said, well, don't you want to start August with the textbooks? She's like, no, it's too much change at one time. So we actually work with our teachers because she's like, you actually have a whole year to work in the textbook. So I don't know if that's something, how you all do it, or it's something you all consider doing. Do we have to vote? Because I know social studies is going to be a huge, is that something where maybe instead of voting in March on it, we do give that extended time? Because that's what I kept telling her. I'm like, but we only have 8 weeks. She's like, but not all districts vote in March. And I'm like, well, and then that's when she kind of shared some of the process with me. So I just wanted to share that. Didn't know if that's something, like I said, I'm not as worried about this one because it's not as big, but I know social studies is going to be.
Yeah. We've had.
And just wondering about our processes too.
We have had some discussions related to that over the years. To answer that first piece, and Dr. Allen, I may call on you, and maybe Dr. Weber, Dr. Oyer, with some details at the grade levels. We do set a goal of transitioning in that first year because we do want to make sure our students have access to instruction on those standards. We have not set it up for that delay that she mentioned. That's been a goal of ours. Dr. Allen, I may get you to speak to the detail of how we transition. One piece related to that is we do try to get a little ahead of the curve compared to our neighbors, because you're getting in line for the actual textbooks. And so if you get in the mix, you may by default end up having to wait some if you're making a purchase later. So we do try to get ahead of the queue. And I do know that strategically different districts might do different things. Linda Cash is the superintendent in Bradley County, really good school district in the northeast of Chattanooga. She and I have had a number of conversations. We found that works well for us. Dr. Allen, can you give some more detail related to that?
First of all, Dr. Johnson, thank you for reaching out and trying to support us in that work, because obviously, we want to be on the front end and make decisions here internally in our district as quickly as we can based on the responses that we get from the state. So as it relates to the standards changing, we are aware of the adjustments that have been made to the standards, and our curriculum specialists are going through and preparing for those changes. But the old state standards are still in place. And so the state standards are our roadmap. It's what we are required to support our students in learning from year to year, and it's what they're assessed on at the end of every year through the state assessment. So we can't make any adjustments until the new standards are in play, and those new standards will be in play the year that we have the new materials. So we make no adjustments. We're still using our current materials. The new standards, when they're in play, not next year but the following year, will be the year that we start our scope and sequence documents and our pacing guides aligned to those standards. So we do have a very short period of time to transition from old materials to new materials. So it's the spring of 1 year to the fall of the next year. And so part of our textbook adoption process every single year is kind of really front-loading a lot of professional development over the summer, reinforcing that professional development during the year. We're doing that right now with our science. We're doing a gap analysis to see where we need to refine our instructional materials. We do that same thing with everything. We'll do that same thing with social studies. But it's a really good point. The time frame from the shifting from the old standards to the new standards is defined by the state, and it is that 27-28 school year. So that's when our alignment of our instructional materials will be in play with those new standards, and students will be assessed on those new standards.
I don't know, but I have a suspicion that part of the discussion, and I'll probably catch Dr. Cash at some point and ask her this, is there are some districts who focus on essential standards, and maybe those standards that are still going to be in place the next year, and then maybe make some transitions in their pacing on some of those standards that don't fit that definition. I wonder if that's part of what they may be doing, because there is some continuity in focusing on that and maybe picking up those others. That's an interesting concept to me.
Well, and I'll just add, I mean, like I said, I'm 29 and a half years in this business. I've taught in 3 different states. Science, middle school science standards, which I taught, have not changed in the 29, and now they might move. Like at one time, I was the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade middle school teacher. So at one time, I might teach a concept in 6th grade and 8th grade, or 7th grade, and like they might move them around, but the standards really aren't moving. So that's something I would like for you all to look at, is maybe implementing that earlier. And then you mentioned like the crosswalk and the scope and sequence. Are classroom teachers involved in the creation of those? Or is that
Yes,
mainly
ma'am.
done at the central office level and the instructional coaches?
Yes, thank you for the question. Yes, ma'am, they are involved in that process, yes. So our curriculum specialists bring together teams of teachers to work on that together. Yes, ma'am.
And to your point, Dr. Johnson, about flipping years, if I'm not mistaken, Tennessee history is getting moved to a different grade level, is it not? Yeah, so for whatever reason, right? Yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head where it's getting changed to.
Yeah, I was a little surprised to hear, actually, we had a meeting just earlier this week with our social studies curriculum specialist, and the topic of social studies standards came up. And he mentioned, his wording was there are significant changes at the elementary level in terms of social studies standards. So we've not dug into those yet, but our team is digging into those and preparing for those.
And I want to change tack just a little bit to get back to your comments this hour about this particular adoption. Chris Cooper is sitting here. I know his name was mentioned. He was a teacher at Independence High School years ago, left us, had some administrative leadership experience, and thank you for coming back. So I have heard many descriptions of the scope of Chris Cooper's knowledge with respect to career technical education. That's really been a benefit to us as we do this work. Any other questions? All right, the final piece in my superintendent's report is another item that we've been going through these last few months as our screen time committee has done their work. So Andy Davis is going to give us an update on Jenny Lopez is going to give us an update on our Screen Time Committee work. I do want to specifically thank again Melissa White and Tanya Hidma for participating in that Screen Time Committee work. I went in and sat and listened to them, and then I actually had a Zoom meeting with some teachers, so I didn't get to hear the whole discussion at this most recent meeting that happened earlier this week. But I did want to mention to you that from my perspective as the superintendent, one of the goals you all set for me, annual goals, was to have some recommendations related to screen time. And so that will ultimately come in May. So just from a timetable perspective, that is on my mind, and that's one of the goals that this team is working on. So if you would, Jenny Lopez.
Thank you, Mr. Golden. Good evening, board members. As promised, at the onset of this committee's work, we would come back every month and fill you in and get you bring you some updates on the progress of the committee's work. I want to first start by thanking our committee members. It is just hard work, and to get here at 4 o'clock in the afternoon to this room and be committed to the learning we're doing and the hard work that we're asking them to do till 6 o'clock at night, and many of them stay beyond 6 o'clock. It's really incredible, the commitment that our committee members have, teachers, parents, instructional coaches, our or 2 board members that show up every time. So thank you so much to those committee members and to our board members for that. So before this meeting that we had, this Tuesday, we met, and we're changing the topic for this month and next month. The topic that we're focused on right now is the technology use guidance and identifying areas of focus that are going to be part of that guidance. So before this meeting, we shared several resources with the committee members so that they would use the learning to be prepared for, kind of to prime them for the work that we are asking them to do right now, which is really hard work. And I'm going to describe that in detail for you so you know what we're asking of our committee members. But so we asked 2 things of them. We asked them to come prepared, reviewing some of the resources. We did email a lot of resources, so I'm sure they had to be selective and review some and read more deeply. The information, the knowledge that this committee needs in order to write this guidance really comes from whatever resources they're using themselves, whatever we're emailing them, and then, of course, all the learning that has taken place since we began our work several months ago, because, as you remember, we met for the first time in May of 2025, and now it's January, and we continue to meet, and we continue to do lots of learning. Some of the comments I've heard at the end of the meetings is how much they're learning and how much they're being exposed to a lot of information that even I've learned because we've really gotten deep into the weeds of instructional technology. So this document here we shared with the committee describes what technology use guidance document would do for our district. So basically, the committee was tasked with creating this document. This slide describes what that document involves, and really it's about defining how we use technology, when we use it, and with the frequency that we should be utilizing technology when it enhances student learning. And of course, we are very focused on instructional technology is utilized when it enhances student learning, and if it doesn't enhance student learning, then we shouldn't be using instructional technology, but rather other resources and other strategies. This document is going to define clear expectations, best practices, and operational parameters, not just for our students, not just for our teachers, but for families and for us as leadership to really be able to then roll out whatever training we need to implement the guidelines provided by this document. So this is how we started the work. I'm going to give you a brief description of what that was like. We asked our committee members to engage with us in some prior learning, to kind of like bring forward everything we had learned. Again, we've learned so much. This graphic up here is kind of like an outline of what we have brought to them in the last few months. So Andy did a fabulous job of taking us all the way back and just kind of describing each of these different topics. Safety, privacy, operational procedures. We spent a lot of time on that and went into the weeds of what we do to keep our students safe. So she reviewed all of those topics. The curriculum access that we provide students, we went deep into that and what our requirements are. For example, our K-12 Tennessee computer science standards. We've looked at those, reviewed what those are, and what different access students have to curriculum through digital resources. We looked at instructional technology best practices, and that's really the framework that we ask teachers to use when deciding whether instructional technology should be considered. So we asked them to look at passive versus active use, what that means. We asked them to use a tool that really looks at whether the integration of that technology is appropriate and is really meeting the outcome set. So this is all learning that we've done before, and again, we were just engaging and just activating prior knowledge. The last topic was usage, and that is, of course, something that's already been shared with you. It's the number of minutes, what are the top apps, kind of the frequency with which we are using technology across different grade bands. As you know, the work that we do is really in grade bands. So we have a K2 subgroup in our committee. We have a 3-5, grades 3-5, grades 6-8, which is our middle school, and then, of course, our high school group. So in this first step, after Andy kind of brought back all of that learning, kind of activated that prior learning for the team, we asked them to take some time to just reflect on that. So we gave them this graphic right here, and they were asked to really think about that learning and identify, like evaluate and identify what topics they really want to be part of this guidance. After learning all of that, what is really important, what is really meaningful for us to really define in this guidance. In step 2, we asked them to then, after doing some self-reflection, to start collaborating within their grade band groups. And so what they did with that activity was, it was just a big blank butcher paper that we posted on the wall for each group. And each of the groups was asked to engage in conversations where they would list what each member of that team had identified as a focused topic that they wanted included in this guidance document. So they did that for a while. There was some really, really deep conversation in all of our teams as they did that. And then after doing that, we asked them to then start creating an outline, looking at everything that everyone had contributed, start consolidating that, and then start putting it in a document that looks like this, where they actually identify an area of focus. Then they list the topics, the details, the information that they want under that area of focus. And then underneath that, we ask them to provide some rationale for including that particular area of focus and any of the details underneath that. And just to be clear, I'm going to go back here a few slides. This is what we gave them and told them they could include all of that or none of that. If that wasn't meaningful or important as part of the document, we can delete whatever we don't think is important as part of that document. But if they think all of it is important, and some teams actually just asked us to copy and paste some of these pieces, and some of the pieces they actually excluded. And then, of course, all teams, as they worked through that, they added their own area of focus that wasn't listed in anything that we did. And that came from their own understanding of what they had researched, all the conversations they've had. So it was really rich discussion. And now comes the really hard part. After doing all of that work, we now have lots of information that our team now is going to take to begin creating a draft. I will share that we have February 10th is supposed to be the time that we bring back this guidance draft for the committee to review. I was really honest with the committee when we met right at the beginning. I said, I think that's too lofty of a goal. I doubt that in February we're going to have a draft that we all say, yep, this is what we want. So I'm thinking we need more time. We had a couple of groups that really just needed more time to talk through it. And in the 2 hours, they actually had about an hour to work through this, and the hour just wasn't sufficient. So I am thinking that we're going to bring back, the next time we meet in February, the plan is to bring back what they provided in a way that's in written form for them to have further discussions. And for the groups that haven't finished yet having those conversations and identifying their areas of focus to be able to have that time. I also want to make sure that we create enough time. The intention was for us to have time to actually share out from group to group, and of course there just wasn't enough time. Again, there were groups that just weren't done yet having those discussions. So we need to create time for that. I think it's really important for everyone in the room to hear what all the other groups are identifying as areas of focus and those descriptions, especially the rationale for why it should be part of this really important document. This document isn't just a piece of paper with a focus. This document is going to guide the work that we do in our district. It's going to guide all of the professional development. It's going to guide how we train our teachers, what we train them on. It's going to inform parents on what we're doing and how we're utilizing technology and when it's utilized, why it's utilized. So this is a really important document. And some of the conversations we had in the committee were, about not rushing to get something done by February 10th, but making sure that when we have it, when we create that guidance, we feel really good about it. And so I'd rather slow this down a little bit, understanding fully that we must get to the family support and resources. So I think we can still meet our deadline, but maybe it's possible that we may not be at that stage of having everything ready until May instead of April, which was our original thought. But again, I don't want to rush us to get something done. I want the product that this committee puts forth to be something that we're all proud of, that we all can get behind, that we all believe is the right thing for students. So I look forward to the continued work, and I certainly look forward to getting back with the committee and continuing to hear their thoughts and their ideas on our areas of focus. If you don't have any questions, I'm going to pass it over to Andy because I want her to update you on some of the resources that she promised that she would have ready for you. So I want her to talk a little bit about that.
Thank you, Jenny. Good evening, board. Last time we were together in November meeting, we talked about an additional request for student usage on that screen time numbers. And so we've been working furiously on that for you all. And so I just shared just a few hours ago with Mr. Golden. So he does have it sitting in his email and he will get that information to you all. But I wanted to address 3 things that are going to be coming your way. The first one was the request last time we were together in November. You got to see August and September data, and you asked for additional data. So November and December is coming your way. It looks very similar. It's that K-12 digital profile. And based on Mr. Galbraith's request, we have increased that from I think we only showed 8 frequently apps used to 20. So you'll see the 20 for kinder, the 20 for first, all the way down through our seniors. Additionally, it was another request of Mr. Galbraith's that we provided a November-December yearly comparison. So what did usage look like in November of December from 2024 to 2025? So I do have that for kindergarten through 5th grade. Dr. Oyer and I have been having screen time conversations for about 3 years now for our littles. So I had that data readily available. I did reach out to ClassLink to ask for the 6-12 data from 2024, but they've moved to a new data warehouse. And so that 2024 data is not available, but they said they could get it to me, but it might take some time. So the 6-12 may be coming in the future, but we definitely have K-5, and I think you'll be able to clearly see some of the impacts of reducing from 1-to-1 in the K-1 area and some things like that. And just some of the work and conversations that Dr. Oyer and I have had with our elementary principals and teachers and communication and things like that. And then finally, the last thing that we'll have for you is basically a November and December a WCS K-12 applications list. It's like your cheat sheet. We don't expect for you guys to know what all those 20 things are and what they're used for in the district on each one of those grade bands. So we did create a little cheat sheet for you, and that's just in alphabetical order. So it's any application that's listed on that K-12 apps frequency list, and it's just listed in alphabetical order.
Thank you, Andy. So that kind of gets us up to speed on what we've been doing. We've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes. We're working really hard to make sure that you have what you need in terms of the information that you've requested, and that our committee, and that we're spending a lot of time being very thoughtful about the work we do with the committee. So that's all the information I have. I wonder if our committee members that sit on the board, Melissa Wyatt and Tanya Hypna, if they have anything that they want to add to this update.
No. Thank you for your great summary.
Any board member questions? Mr. Chair, with that, that's my report.
That was a good one.
I have
Thank
a
you
quick
very much.
question. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm curious about the elementary art throwdown, that event and the format. Just we have that on our calendar. If you could tell us about that.
I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Warrior to share, but I will tell you, going in, I think we're doing it in the gym again this year. I don't know, but it's fun to watch.
Let me tell you, it's the first time, and I might look
Oh, well,
at
that's
our
right. We've done
TLA
it at
colleagues.
secondary schools.
He is referencing the secondary experiences, which I'm going to draw on my own experiences at secondary to say it's going to be an incredible event. It's an inaugural event. It's happening at Hunters Bend. And the idea is that we just pull teams from at different schools, the different elementary schools. I'm not 100% sure how many teams are engaging this year. And the idea is that they come together for the first time on that day, and they're given a topic, some type of theme more than a particular outcome that they're working on, with a variety of mediums. And then they work together collaboratively. So imagine a group, I'm not positive where it's going to be at Hunters Bend. The gym sounds like a great idea when I visualize it, but the art teachers have been doing this with Mark Kinzer, our fine arts specialist. And so we're molding that day into a collaborative art experience for our youngest artists and are very, very excited about it. So we encourage you all to be there. Again, this has been kind of in the works. Mark and I have been saying, should we do this? Or Mr. Kinzer, should we be doing this? Is this a good idea? But we've seen such success at the secondary level for years and years. So we hope you're able to join us and see what our youngest artists have to offer.
So it might vary a little bit, but just visualize those New York City chess players who are hitting that button. So sometimes the students are given a topic, build something with the materials you have, go. And then there's a window of time for them to do it, and then they present it to each other. Sometimes it's to your talk about different media, there might be a painting, a different visual art, a sculpture, et cetera. And so it's a
gonna be
really
rich.
neat thing.
If you don't have it on your calendars, just for clarity's sake, it's January 21st from 9 to 1 is that what you have, Melissa? You said you have it on your calendar?
I think we have 10 a.m.
Okay,
But-
that may be accurate, but, where it's on ours because of the transportation. And
Okay.
go with what you have officially. Mine's probably stretched out because
Okay.
we want to be there a little early.
Okay, thank you for the
Yeah,
invitation.
absolutely. Thank you for
Okay.
asking.
Okay.
Other questions? Okay. We will move to operations report, Mr. King.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As Dr. Qualls mentioned earlier, the Innovation Center is basically complete, the construction piece of it. Furniture and equipment will start being installed toward the end of this month. And once that's over, then we'll start doing tours and invite anybody that wants to come see it to check it out. The renovations, Grassland Middle in Hillsborough, we received some money last year for our 5-year capital. We're putting that out to bid January 29th for both of those. And those will be 3 summer projects over the next 3 years to complete those. We were able to do a little bit over Christmas break. Eric found some time and had some money that we received, and we did some renovations on the 6th grade bathrooms at Grassland Middle over Christmas break, so that was really good. Our maintenance, IT, security, still working on phase 2 of our internal access control and alert systems. It's going great. Phase 2 will be finished this summer. Phase 3, which will be the last phase, that will finish all our schools, will be complete 27-28 school year, and that's in this 5-year capital. We're asking for phase 3 in this year's 5-year capital plan. And let's see, later tonight's meeting, we will be talking about open zone schools. And I just want to take this time to everybody, and I know a lot of people that have been in the district know Allison Nunley. The work she puts in for her projections to get us to where we can come up with these open zone numbers is fantastic. And it's a lot of work between calling the municipalities about permits and how many permits have been pulled in certain subdivisions and where they're zoned to. It's painstaking. It's a lot of work, a lot of detail, and she does a great job. So I want to thank Allison for that. And then finally, if Nick, you have it, I love doing this. This is from December, from our nursing team, we had a little over 16,000 visits to the nurses' clinic in December, and 89% were able to return to class. So nurses doing a fantastic job. And that is my report, unless there are any questions from the board members.
I have one question. I know that you had the Franklin High Athletic, the men's, I know that was on the 5-year plan. How are we coming along with that? Is that already underway, or?
She's talking about from annual capital, the
capital, yeah.
the annual capital
Okay.
last year for the Franklin High shower, locker rooms.
What's the timeline on that?
Do you know when we're starting that, Adam?
No, I don't. I can look it up.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll look that up and get
Thanks.
that to you.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Other questions for Brian? All right. Don't have a board chair report. Already shared the important dates earlier in the meeting, so please make note of those. We'll go into new business. Ms. Farmer, there's about 4 budget items. You want to walk us through those, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We do have 3 intent to funds that we're going to go ahead and bring in January. The rest of the items, when you all approved the 5-year capital in November, there were 3 that we want to go ahead and bring, and Mr. King talked about Grassland Middle and Hillsborough because the commission had partially funded them last year, and so they are in process, and so we want to go ahead and request those intent to funds now so we can continue with the work. And so the first item is an intent to fund related to the Hillsborough renovation, and we would be asking, the intent to fund is for an additional $3.6 million, but only asking for $1.8 in this year. And then similarly, the second one was for Grassland Middle, where the intent to fund would be $6 million, and we're requesting $4 million in this year.
And just as a reminder, Brian mentioned this is a 3-year summer project, so this funding would be not for this coming summer, but the next, for planning purposes. Also, there's a little typo on the one too many zeros, and we'll make sure that at the voting meeting, that's there.
Oops. The other item is related to field lighting, and so we're going ahead and asking for that as well. It was on the 5-year capital plan. The thought process behind it is that we are working, we need to go ahead and put it out to bid to have an idea of what it's truly going to cost. And in order to be able to put it out to bid, we need the intent to fund in place. We're also currently working with TVA, maybe potentially then partnering with us and being able to help us with some of that cost. But in order, again, to be able to file all of those requests, we need an actual bid and an intent to fund to move forward with. So again, in that case, it's a $15 million project, and we would be requesting $12 million in this year.
So let me put a little bit more detail into that. TVA has some potential rebates, and the window's open now. And so if you all approve this, I intend to take this to the county commission and tell them we have the potential to get this a little bit cheaper. Maybe as much, Eric Gardner, as maybe Adam, is 10% or so potentially off with TVA support.
So those would be the 3 intent to funds. The other intent to funds we will bring as part of the budget process with the county commission. But again, these were projects that have already started, or we need to go ahead and do some work on in order to be able to proceed. The last item is the property that we have at Split Log related to the middle school area. We've had some work that needed to be done to the grading property itself. And in order to pay for that work, we would need to go ahead and move some money out of contingency in order to be able to cover the full cost. And that would be $700,000 that we are requesting for you to move out of contingency. So in order to do that, or if we were to do that, what that would then leave for us in contingency related to rural, which again, that's K-8, is right at $6.2 million. And we still have $3.5 million in general. That's what that would be.
Just to make it double or triple sure, this particular request is the first step in getting that middle school put together and built that you all asked and you all voted on at the last meeting to move it up 1 year from where we originally had it. So this will get that engineering work started.
And to be clear, the first three of those items require county commission approval.
Those
The
would
fourth-
require
The
county
fourth one
commission.
does not.
Correct.
Yeah.
And the county commission did approve the 5-year capital plan on Monday night. They did approve that one.
Any questions for Ms. Farmer?
Could you explain the split log again about the money? Where's it coming from again?
We had some money that was already given to, when we did the original Jordan Elementary split log, there was
Right.
money designated for that property to be able to do architectural design work and a few things. And so we needed to be able to go ahead and do that and get it going, assuming that we will be able to build. Even if we don't, the work needed to be done. And so it came in, that cost was $3.5 million. And so we do not have enough money to actually cover the whole thing without pulling some money from contingency.
So the contingency is rural contingency, in essence, leftover funding from some of our K through 8 projects. Often, we will do this for the engineering work, take the contingency, because we will have contingency built into a large project, and then hopefully we don't use it, and because we haven't had change orders. That's where the funding will come from for the engineering work. I've had some discussions with Mayor Anderson over the years, especially for engineering work. The big ask he has is, if you have contingency money left over, and it's not one of those multi-million-dollar projects, get it started out of contingency so we can hit it when it's time.
Any other questions? All right, we'll move on to the approval of the salary study contract. Mr. Golden?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This salary study request that we have from you is based on a combination of two things. One is the goal, one of my superintendent goals that we've talked about, and two is there's a board policy that actually requires the board to approve any consultant contract in excess of $10,000. So we did an RFP for the salary study consultant, and we are recommending the lowest proposal / bid. Vicki Hall has some details related to that. And she has, we have actually in her memo, Lean Frog Business Solutions, Inc. Came in at $44,500. That's pretty close to what we had projected for the salary study. From a timing perspective, I did want to mention to you that one of the things that they shared with us is, we talked about May as being my deadline, at least for my reports. They said, we're going to get you the basics of that, but we may still be doing some work even past that based on their experience with these detailed salary studies. Ms. Hall is here if you have any additional questions related to that.
I know there were other salary studies done within the district or within the county. Is this the same company or a different company?
Different company.
Okay, thank you.
I know I had mentioned, Vicki, you and I had a little email correspondence about it, that I know that the RFP had said teacher-only salaries, and I had asked, like, while we're doing it, is there a way to check on what it would look like for the incentive stuff for just any faculty and staff? Is that something that can be included still, or?
The study is actually for all employees. It's for classified and for teachers.
Gotcha, awesome,
Yes.
okay, great, thank you.
Mr. Bostic, you and I actually had a brief discussion about that too, and we recognize that we need to make sure we cover everything. All right, any questions on that? I know that you all may have noticed that our board chair just stepped out. He had to leave at 7:45.
Actually, I do have a quick question.
Oh, sorry?
Sorry, he said anarchy, but I do have a quick question. If we vote, like, where's the money for that going to come from?
Thank you for that. Rachel, can you speak to that?
Sure. So we
good
have, collectively, there are different groups. Mr. Golden has money that he has within the budget to spend on different projects that come throughout the year. And so we know that there's some money there that we can pull. There's also other pots of other contracted services, maybe in other departments. And so our goal at this point is that we will be able to combine those and not have to come back with a request for a budget amendment.
So it will be a combination. I can't remember the exact amount that the board has had in the portion that she describes as mine. I have traditionally used those for, like, a school has an immediate need, and so there's some of that money. I don't think I spent,
You haven't spent any.
haven't spent any this year. We haven't had a crisis that a school has had for me to spend, so, well, there you go. We're hitting one now, and so that's what we'll do. All right, I'm going to offer the potential, Mr. Cash, would you like to finish, or do you want me to finish? Go for it. Okay. Next item on the agenda is the approval of open zone schools for 2026-27 school year. I'm listed as the speaker for that. As Brian mentioned in his report, Allison Nunley is here. She led us in that work. We have had multiple meetings related to that. We provided you with the documents with our recommendations. I did want to point out to you, number one, we have 7 schools that we are not recommending for open zone seats this year. That is, if I'm not mistaken, Allison, exactly the same schools as last year, with, I think, the exception of Thompson Station Elementary, because we looked at the enrollment numbers at Thompson Station Middle and determined that it was not wise to open that. So last year, we had 6 schools no, I take that back. We might have had some high schools last year that were not open zone.
Mr. Golden, so last year Thompson Station Elementary was not open zoned, and this year it is.
Okay,
It's the opposite.
Sorry about that, I flipped it. So by and large, what we've seen is this is very similar to last year. Certainly open to any questions that you may have related to that, but I wanted to add one additional piece because I've had multiple conversations with many of you related to this. We do project that we will probably need to do some rezoning for the 27-28 school year. And you can identify those on its face. The ones that are going to be apparent are the ones where we're not open, where we have 0, because we see an issue there. So open to any questions you may have.
Go ahead.
Mr. Welch?
Well, I was just going to say, one of the questions I had for tonight was about rezoning, because we've talked about, like, if we could start on that here soon to get proposals for the fall to then do the 27-28. So is there a status on that, or?
Thank you for that. We have done just administratively some information gathering on our current student numbers. We've done some, for lack of a better phrase, polygons as we describe them based on our software, some projections. I will tell you where we've started looking administratively is in the Page Middle community and in the Nolensville community. Those are our 2 prime areas. And so we have started that. We have not yet put a timetable together. What I will tell you is that from a back scheduling perspective, January of 2027 is our absolute deadline that we need to have something in place for the 2027 school year. So to back schedule that, we've traditionally had community meetings after we present proposals so that we could present those to our families. We expect probably that we're going to have some community meetings in the September-October timeline of this coming school year. What we haven't talked about yet is when we start presenting some to you. Our experience is that we're really going to start having some decent numbers to look at when we get the out-of-zone request closeouts for this spring, and then our numbers will get better when the fall starts, so that we can get a good grasp of it. Allison, Brian, is there any other detail you want to share related to that question? Okay.
So I want to also kind of ask about the zoning stuff. So, and that was one of my questions. Are we looking at it? So that's good to know. But this sort of relates to middle to high school for a school that's not even on our list, or a couple of schools, because I want to talk about the FSSD kids that are coming to us. And I think a lot of times they're, at least us here, it's out of sight, out of mind, because, they're not our kids at that point. That's another school district. But if we don't plan for them, they flip over and they become our kids instantly. And we haven't maybe thought or given them the attention. I want to make sure I say it's the right way. We haven't given them probably the attention that they deserve at that point. We being this board, I'm putting it on me and us rather than than you, or the staff with that, because I think you do think about that. But if you look at Freedom Middle, I believe that's got the smallest split, feeder split of any school in Williamson County. It's like 9% of the kids. And I know every year there's a freedom table over at Franklin High School, because, you know, they get there and it's hard enough being freshmen, you know, and you're the shortest, smallest kids in the school. But now you're the shortest, smallest kids in the school, and you don't know anybody except the few stragglers that have made it there while the rest head off to Centennial. And I think a lot of people probably think, well, that's an easy answer. It's just 9%. You just send them over to Centennial, send them all the way over. Except those neighborhoods that they're pulling from, in a lot of cases, literally border Franklin High School, or they're across the street from it. They're all within walking distance. In fact, there's a lot of schools, a lot of neighborhoods that are in walking distance of Franklin High School that are rezoned to Centennial High School on the other side of Franklin. So you could literally walk there. Maybe, you know, you look at the distance on Google Maps, like, it's a half mile or whatever it is. In some cases, to get to Centennial, you've got to literally drive past Franklin High School to get, if you're taking 96 and going around. And, you know, everybody's got their sob story in the district and moves, and I understand that. But I think this really is a segment of our kids that aren't here yet, but they are our kids, and they're going to get there, that we need to do a little bit more for and take care of them a little bit better. The challenge has always been Centennial's underfilled. So you're robbing Paul to pay Peter, and how do you get it from there? And Franklin High School's been on the higher side of it as well, overstocked. But now that's evening out. We've got some open enrollment that's going to Franklin. If we can open enroll to Franklin, then I think we can put these kids in there. And then we also need to backfill Centennial to get them up consistently. You look at the numbers and see where the kids are being pulled out of and everything else. Centennial's getting stripped every time. And, you know, it's tough to win football games and different things like that. And, you know, it's trivial, but it's not. We all know that. You know, it's yeah, not just that, but just everything, you know, funding your programs and the kids and getting your PTO support. So I think it's feeding each other. We need to fill Centennial, and I think that Virgil talking about that. And with that, we need to take care of our FSSD kids, so we don't have that little slice. We need to get the ones that make sense geographically to go to Franklin, all of them, to be able to go over there. So it's not just the, you know, the few on their own that way.
Thank you for that. You shared an issue that's a real issue that, if I'm not mistaken, dates back maybe 3 superintendents worth of staff members. There was a time where Franklin was overcrowded.
Well, I can tell you it goes back at least 16 years.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. There was a time where Franklin was overcrowded. Recently, we've been able to include some open zoning for Franklin High School, because some of those areas that Franklin serves, not a lot of houses have been sold, right? So people have grown out of that. One of the preliminary items that Allison had worked on, that was in response earlier to Dr. Johnson's question, was that very issue of percentages of split zones. So you're right. I think that 9% is actually correct as well. Allison had actually given us a document in the last few days related to that. That is the the highest split, the biggest gap. Page High School and Centennial are a feeder for Page Middle, and I think that may be 11 or 12% go to Centennial, something like that. The next one is Heritage Middle is split between Independence and Summit, and it might be 14, 15%. Thank you. So we've been looking at those as well. I do project that a likely scenario when we look to stabilize some of those is look at that feeder pattern. And Mr. Welch, I think maybe there have been some other board members over the years who have said, look at it both directions, from elementary going up and from high school going down as you set those zones. So I do anticipate there's a real possibility that when we may make recommendations to cover those handful of schools that are overcrowded, that we factor in that feeder pattern as well. So it could be a little bit broader than just those two regions where we've got those, 6 or 7 schools that are overcrowded, but try to find a way to create some balance in that feeder pattern. One item that may not be on its face obvious to you, but if you drill into the numbers of the documents we gave you in the board packet, is we are recommending open zoning some seats to every high school. Now, on paper, some of those are really close to being full, but we've come to the conclusion as a leadership team that if we can give some choice to every high school, we should. So if we make an adjustment when we look at rezoning next year and factor in this basic concept of start with balance and then give choice, as opposed to have some imbalance and some choice, we feel like that has a potential to be a better solution.
I just want to say I completely agree with Eric on the Franklin High zoning and Freedom Middle and all of that. I've always thought that was such a strange sort of zoning that's been there, and it is very true. There are a lot of kids who could walk to school, and instead they have to get bussed over to Centennial, and it just never made sense from a community standpoint on that. So I totally agree.
Thank you for that. The geography is odd if you look at the map. Centennial is the only high school that does not have a county line border. It's completely surrounded by other high school zones. And before we added the wings to Independence and Ravenwood et al., Centennial was our largest high school. So it does have some capacity. I mean, largest capacity high school. Any other questions related to that? All right, thank you, Board. The next and final item on our agenda is a resolution celebrating the USA's 250th anniversary. I want to thank Tanya Hibma for putting this thought into our minds. And Ms. Hibma, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere around September, October, you broached this subject about the upcoming semi-sesquicentennials. And it's funny because we typed that in, when we typed this in, WordCheck didn't even recognize that word. But it is semi-sesquicentennial. I'm going to struggle with that. 250th anniversary of our nation. Dr. Webb and Dr. Royer and their teams have been working on helping the high schools, the middle schools, and the elementary schools develop some specific celebrations related to that. In essence, I'm just going to say it this way, before the school year runs out. Because we know that most of the nation's celebrations are going to occur between Memorial Day and July 4th. We want to make sure that every one of our schools gets our students prepared for that, because they're not going to be with us when July 4th hits. I will tell you personally, I have a memory as a 7 or 8 year old of 1976 and what a big deal that was, and how many things, just colorful bunting everywhere. It was a really neat experience for me as that age child that still sticks with me. I want to make sure that we give that same experience to our students so that when the next 50 hits for them, they'll have that fond memory as a child. One of the things that Dr. Webb and Dr. Oyer noticed as they started the work was it was very quiet until January 1st hit. And now we're finding example after example of different organizations celebrating this year. So I project that we are going to have a celebration of some sort continue over the course of the year. So our proposal to you is a resolution celebrating that. Tanya and I had a brief, I guess, email discussion about the concept of making, I'm wanting our schools to have that flexibility to broaden that and do that over time so that is a yearly celebration. I also project that come Veterans Day next year, that's going to be a topic as well. As you know, many of our schools very thoughtfully celebrate our veterans on Veterans Day in November. Dr. Webb, Dr. Royer, can you share a little bit about some things your teams have looked at for this spring?
I'll emphasize one piece of it is that we're not only looking at academics, we're looking at arts and athletics, because there are many facets of what we do with students and the leadership that our students have and programming where we can recognize and celebrate history. So we're still in the planning phase of all those aspects. We're working with Dr. Allen's department and our curriculum specialists to figure out where are the best ways to integrate into our curriculum. We're working with Patrick Whitlock in athletics, Mark Kinzer in the arts, and how we can incorporate branding and recognition, performances, and spotlights in what we do.
All right. Ms. Hidma?
Yeah, well, I mean, this gets really exciting. So, yeah, I just want to thank you guys all for that work, and you guys are really taking it kind of where I was kind of picturing it too, just in all aspects of the school district. And just to Jason's point too, that was a memory from my childhood, and so I kind of the same thing, just wanted our students to be able to have that opportunity to celebrate and be part of that celebration. So, thank you, everyone.
I saw some movement over here, Mr. Welch. Dr. Johnson, did you have a comment or a question? All right. If there is nothing else, by proxy, I adjourn this meeting.